everybody, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with the Rumour Has It video where we're talking about players linked to the football club in the upcoming transfer window, and this one is sure to be a bit of a doozy, an opinion splitter. I'm pretty certain about that. We'll get stuck into this in a second. We've got two players to talk about, two Premier League players, exciting players, but certainly one of them will definitely divide opinion, I'm sure, for you guys watching. Just before we do, a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of a reminder. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on something like 2,379, I think, subscribers, but really close to 2,400. Smash that button. Loads of room for you guys. All free content here. 2 weekly shows, Mondays and Wednesdays, and pop-up videos just like the Room one you're about to watch. So who are we going to talk about? Well, we all know by now that Chris Wood has left the club on loan. Everyone has an opinion on it. I certainly have my opinion on it, which I'm sure we'll talk about on what's going on Monday. Everyone seems to be crying the black and white scarves at Chris Wood leaving and what a great job he's done for the club. I don't really prescribe to that. I think he was pretty shit, really, but we'll get stuck into that, I'm sure, on Monday. But we're looking at what players may come in to possibly replace him in the squad, not like for like player, but come in as an attacking threat or to bolster the attacking ranks. So a couple of players that have been linked here, and the first one for certain will divide opinion. Yes, it is Everton's Anthony Gordon. Now, this guy has been there rubbing Newcastle fans up probably the wrong way ever since we've played against him on numerous occasions. We've always got the better of Gordon, and he's a funny player. So he's got loads of ability. There's no doubt about that at all. But he just has this look about him and this way about him that just winds people up. He kind of throws it back a little bit to shit houses of eras gone by, like Joey Barton. He's got a little bit of the Bartons in him. Craig Bellamy's definitely got a bit of the Bellamy's in him as well, where we loved Bellas as a player when he played for us, but what an annoying little prick he was for everybody he was playing against. But there's no doubt this kid has ability. He obviously kicked off at Everton, burst onto the scene, was brilliant. They all thought he was going to be some massive big player. People are talking about big transfers, a bit like what Wayne Rooney did, obviously, when he went to Manchester United. Certainly drew the attention of Chelsea. Chelsea was sniffing at him big time in the summer. There was talk of 50 million quid. Didn't quite happen. Everton had a really bad season last season, and they're having an even worse season probably this season as well. And the club is turned absolutely toxic there. Really, really has. I've got no sympathy really for Evertonians. I mean, there's a lot of them will be fine, I'm sure, but a lot of them are so unbearable. Ever since they got that money, they seem to think they were entitled to success. And they're a blueprint of how not to spend money well. Newcastle United have got loads of money, which is well documented, but we spent it really well on good players and the right characters. Everton haven't done that. Yes, Ancelotti leaving screwed them over a little bit, but they've really made bad decision after bad decision, and they're in a real precarious position right now. And I think they're in a position where they have to sell a star player to get money in to bolster the squad. And I really think Anthony Gordon is going to be that player. The fans have turned against him. They were chasing his bloody Range Rover the other day outside Goodison Park, which was a real shame to see because he's a local lad. And I think he does a little bit off the pitch as well for the community, for food shelters and things like that as well. But on the pitch, he has been a decent player for them. What is he like as a player? You can see the key strengths there. Mark's got long shots, set pieces and defensive contributions, which is music to Eddie Howe's ears. He's got a hell of an engine on him. He tracks back, he wins the ball back, he does the dirty work, gets himself a little bit wound up, a little bit needlessly involved. Mark's got passing as his weakness. I would also say temperament is a weakness as well of Anthony Gordon's, but that's something you'd like to think Eddie Howe could coach out of him. When he was on form, there was no doubt he was a good player. He's got pace, he's got a great touch, good close control, can spin a player, got the speed to get away from them, can get the ball in, can create, can score goals. As well as you can see there in 78 appearances, he got 7 goals and 7 assists. They predominantly came in the spell when he was playing really, really well. This season, he's had 16 Premier League starts, 3 goals, 6 yellow cards, though. So that little discipline is there. But I think because of the way Everton's going and the toxicity there, the players getting wound up, I think a lot of that is to do with that. Coming to Newcastle United, I think, will get this lad back on track. I really do. And I'm aware somebody's probably about to remind me in the comments that I called him a Scouse smack rat, I believe I did when we played against them. And I still stand by that. But if he was playing for us, he would be our Scouse smack rat, and I'd love him. So just looking at the stats per 90 minutes, you can see there is a lot of yellows in there, a few greens. So the yellows, the goal ratio is low. He's in the 26th percentile for players in his position. But again, you've got to remember he's playing on a really, really bad Everton side. The pass completion is really poised in the 5th percentile. But again, you've got to look at the team that he's playing in, put him around better players who make better runs. People like Bruno Guimaraes, people like Mickey, people like Wilson and Isaac. His stats could go up through the roof. He's got those players to find. So what has he been good at this season per 90 minutes? His tackles and his blocks. You can see there he's right up in the 99th percentile. of players in his position. A lot of that's to do with the fact that Everton have been under the cosh a lot and he's had to defend a lot. Interceptions as well, he's had good stats there too. I think this kid is a good player. There's no doubt about it. There's a good player in there. And I think he needs the right move to get away from this toxic club right now. Everton need the money. I can really see there's some legs in this. Apparently, we've been admiring the kid for a long time. And I think at 21 years old, he'd have a hell of a lot of time ahead of him, for Eddie Howe to work with him and make him a better player. Look what he's done with Joe Linton. Look what he's done with Mickey Almiron. If he could do the same thing for Anthony Gordon, this lad could be an England regular. I honestly believe that, if Eddie Howe can work that magic on him. You can see how he compares on the radar grid on the other side to Mickey Almiron. Obviously, Mickey's having the season of his life, so this is Mickey at his peak. But you can still see there that Anthony Gordon does, does overscore him in certain areas as well, in terms of assists, key passes, and things like that as well. So definitely in his defensive qualities as well. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below, whether you think that Anthony Gordon would be a good signing or not. He definitely does divide opinion, but try and separate the fact you think he's a shithouse to the fact that he's actually a good footballer that could benefit the squad. He's much better than a Jacob Murphy, much better than a Ryan Fraser. So I think if we can get the lad in for, say, something like, I don't know, something potentially like 30 million quid, maybe 35 million maximum. I wouldn't really go any higher than that. Certainly wouldn't want to go over 40 million for the kid, because I think the stock's kind of dropped a little bit. So we could get him for a real song, and if Eddie can work his magic on him, we're going to have a hell of a player on our hands. But definitely he is dividing opinion amongst the fan base right now. So we'll watch that one and we'll see what happens. But there's definitely going to be some moves, I think, in the last week and a half of this window, especially losing Wood. And we're definitely going to need to enhance the squad numbers. Now, speaking of Chelsea, who were interested in Anthony Gordon in the summer, Chelsea have been signing practically everybody who's been going. I think they put a bid in for me and Mark midweek, but they're signing everybody. I don't know what the hell is going on with FFP, mind you, but because of that, they're going to have to jettison some players off their bill, or they are going to get absolutely snookered. So the next player we are talking about is this lad here, which is Hakim Ziyech. So Hakim Ziyech has apparently been one of the players Newcastle United have either been offered or looking at. It's going around the media. So you've got Conor Gallagher, you've got Ziyech, you've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, or left ass cheek, as my daughter refers to him as, which still makes me laugh. But in terms of Hakim Ziyech, this guy's a quality footballer. There's no doubt about that at all. Anybody who doesn't know about Ziyech, that Ajax team that he kind of cut his teeth with, went really far in the Champions League. He's a big game experienced player. 49 appearances, 19 goals for Morocco. He's a very, very talented footballer. He's very strong on the ball. He's got great close control, quick feet, great passer on the ball as well. It has been prone to an absolute snorter from outside of the box, as Mark says there, long shot and passing. And his key passes, when he makes that decision, he always picks the right ball. It's gone a little bit off for him at Chelsea. It's not the first player you can say that about Chelsea. I think it's a horrible club, and it can either make or break careers, and most of the time it breaks careers. I think Ziyech is another one on a long list of broken body players that have gone to Chelsea as a really good player, and it's got to the point now where his career is kind of at a crossroads, and if he doesn't leave soon, you'll be deemed as a flop or a failure. But you can see there he's been there since 2020, 95 appearances, 14 goals, and 11 assists. So the stats aren't that bad, but with all this uncertainty at Chelsea, with the management, the ownership, and everything else, they seem to be buying fucking everybody now. Ziyech is going to be going. And do I think he'd be a good buy for Newcastle United? 100%, in my opinion. At 29 years of age, he's older than Gordon. But if you're talking about the same kind of value drop down, I think you get a more accomplished player here. You get a lot calmer player. Although he does commit fouls, as Mark says there, because a lot of attackers do. When he gets involved in the game, he doesn't lose his head like Anthony Gordon can do, and that's the big concern for me with Gordon, is the temperament. You don't get that with Ziyech, you get the quality instead. In terms of his stats per 90, as you can see there, in terms of his season as it is, he's had 10 appearances in the Premier League, only 1 assist. So he's been used very, very sparingly by Tuchel and by Potter. He's had a couple of turnouts to the Champions League and in the EFL as well. So 15 appearances overall and only 1 assist. So you can see his goals are right down the bottom there, 17th percentile, as is his XG. His shots, though, when he does play, over 3 shots a game, he's in the 94th percentile, and shots on target, he's in the 89th percentile. So when he does shoot, generally he gets it on target. Dribbles as well, you can see he loves running with the ball. He's very, very accomplished running with the ball. He's good with either foot, shifts the weight either side, keeps defenders guessing. Very, very good play in that regard. His pass completion isn't great, as you can see. His key passing is low this season, but because he's been used so sparingly, and Mark's gone down there, his expected threat level is only 51 percentile. Now, normally when he's playing regular and he's got confidence of the manager behind him, that XT would be way up, in the kind of 80th percentile, in my opinion. But because he's been having a bit of a turbulent time at Chelsea, it's right down. But you can see what a good player that he can be, when he's on form. When he was at Ajax, he was absolutely superb. When he first went to Chelsea, he took it like a duck to water, and he was brilliant. He was one of the best players in the league. So where does he kind of compare next to Miggy Almiron? You can see that on the side again with the goals. Miggy's smashing it completely. But in terms of the shots and the shots on target and the assists, Ziyech is generally a bit of ahead of Miggy, in terms of the radar grid. But at 29 years old, it is a bit of a gamble. Do you want to drop 30 odd million quid on a player for 29 years old? How much are you going to get out of him? We signed Trippier for a real bargain of 12 million quid. And he's got a couple of years left in him, obviously, and he's been superb, Trippier. But you don't want to be dropping 30 million quid really on a 30-year-old, because how long are you going to get out of the guy? But one thing that Ziyech would give you, there's a real good chance at the end of the season we are going to have European football. I think one good thing that Ziyech can do for you is to give you that experience, give you that big game experience, Champions League experience. So whether a Champions League, whether a Europa League, they're the kind of games that Ziyech would step up in, and you'll be able to set the tone, set the pace, help a lot of the younger players, the likes of the Brunos and stuff. I know they have played Champions League, but he'll be able to talk to them, keep them calmer, let them know to what to expect in those kind of games. So I think it would be a really good sign. I'd like him on a loan deal personally, with a view to a permanent in the summer, to see how he's good, how he gets on, a bit like Kennedy. If you remember, we had Kennedy, he was brilliant in the first part. The second part, he was dog shit. So I'd quite like Ziyech to come in on loan, but I'm not sure whether Chelsea would loan him to what they would deem as a top 4 rival in ourselves. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you prefer Gordon or would you prefer Ziyech? But one thing's for sure, I think with Newcastle United losing players, we already needed to add that squad anyway. In that midfield area, I think John Joe Shelby's still about 3 or 4 weeks away from fitness. Matty Targett's still about 3 or 4 weeks away from fitness. But I think we're covered in that left back area. We were talking about a midfielder all through the window. Loads of the journalists have been talking about midfielders. We've been talking about them on Rumour Has It as well. I still think we'll have a central midfielder in that position. But now I think we're going to need somebody else in the attacking berth as well. Madison still might not be off the table, as well. So that could be something in the background. But we'll soon see what moves Newcastle United have got to make as well on the 21st of January. We've got some big games coming up. Sarma Crystal Palace this weekend, and then the first of the double-header semi-final in the Carabao Cup. I'd like to think Newcastle United will add to this squad before the window closes. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We always love to hear from you. Any players that you would like us to try and sign, we also like to hear from that as well. And we'll be keeping across that as much as we can before the window shuts. But that's just pretty much wrapped up for now. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. And if you can, like the video, it really helps get it along YouTube and gets other people to see it. And we welcome anybody on board who wants to come on board. 2 live shows, as I said, Mondays and Wednesdays, and pop-up videos just like the one you've looked at now. And let's keep supporting that team of Core United, and let's hope we get some new bodies in before the end of this window. We'll catch you later. Cheers. Bye.